Hi, I'm Rebecca Reskis with the White Mountain National Forest. Today, the White Mountain National Forest is nearly 800,000 acres, but it wasn't always this way. Can you guess the original size of the White Mountain National Forest? Was it 1 acre, 600 acres, 7,000 acres, or 400,000 acres? The story of the White Mountain National Forest and the answer are coming up. The White Mountain National Forest is part of the National Forest System that includes more than 150 forests from Alaska to Puerto Rico. Unlike national parks, where land is set aside for preservation, national forests were set aside for conservation, or the wise use of resources through a balance of activities and uses, including recreation, wildlife habitat, clean water, timber and forest products, and wilderness. The forests are managed by the U.S. Department of Agriculture Forest Service and are yours to enjoy. But it wasn't always that way. In the late 1800s, most of the White Mountains were owned by large logging companies. By 1890, there were 832 sawmills operating and 17 logging railroads crisscrossing the state. By the early 1900s, much of the White Mountains had been clear-cut. Uncontrolled logging, erosion, and wildfires brought public awareness and a resounding cry for conservation. The devastated White Mountains became the impetus for one of the most important pieces of conservation legislation in United States history, the Weeks Act. 2011 marks the centennial anniversary of the passing of the Weeks Act. Advocated by such groups as the Appalachian Mountain Club and the Society for the Protection of New Hampshire Forests, and championed by Congressman John W. Weeks of Massachusetts, the Weeks Act of 1911 allowed the federal government to purchase private land to establish national forest reserves. In 1918, a presidential proclamation officially established the White Mountain National Forest. So what was the size of the original purchase of the White Mountain National Forest? It was 7,000 acres purchased in 1914 for just over $13 per acre. Today, the forest is nearly 800,000 acres large. The White Mountains are once again forested and abundant with wildlife, fresh air, and clean water. Thanks to the Weeks Act, it is all yours to enjoy.